Songs of Rural America, celebrating the songs and stories of America's front porch, recorded in concert with the Ohio Valley Symphony.
There you go, baby, here am I, summertime. Starry, starry nights.
Songs of Rural America, next on this public television station.
Songs of Rural America, the Symphony Concert, is presented in part by the Martin Guitar Company in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, making handcrafted acoustic guitars since 1833. The Deering Banjo Company, providing American-made banjos for front porch pickers and professionals, online at deeringbanjos.com. Fransky String Instruments of Prairie Village, Kansas, online at mfstrings.com. And by Song Farmers, supporting the community of front porch musicians, online at songfarmers.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Johnathon.
Sitting on a creaky old rocking chair. They say it's gonna rain, but we don't care. I'm dancing with you all afternoon on the front porch with me. Waving to my neighbors as they're passing by, cooking up some chicken, bacon, apple pie, pretty as a rain cloud in the sky on the front porch with me. Listen to the rhythm of a summer rain, tapping out a tempo on my window pane. Nothing like summer on a front porch swing, making my banjo ring. I'm playing my banjo on a rocking chair. You can play your fiddle in your underwear, just pretty as a rain cloud in your hair on the front porch with me. Of a summer rain, tapping out a tempo on my window pane. Nothing like summer on a front porch swing, making my banjo ring. I'm playing my banjo on a rocking chair. They say it's gonna rain, but baby, we don't care. I'm dancing with you all afternoon on the front porch with me. When you're on the front porch with me, when you're on the front porch. Thank you so much, and welcome to Songs of Rural America. You know, nothing in this country shaped communities and cultures and generations more than the American automobile. And so in celebration of America's love for the automobile, here's a song called Cars. don't sing about cars no more. Cool cars died in the oil wars. It really doesn't sound very sexy to say I drive a little four-cylinder Chevrolet. Man, nobody sings about cars anymore. I got a little Toyota and it goes really far. It's a little itty bitty teeny weeny car. It's a fuel efficient automobile made of a whole lot of plastic and not much steel. Nobody sings about cars anymore. Subaru, the steering wheel might castrate you. A tiny backseat, I am told, is automatic birth control. Corvette, Mustang, four on the floor. Super Camaro, Hemi engine, two-door. It's a roomy eight-cylinder convertible dream. Slip into a car today, you're busting up your spleen. Man, nobody sings about cars anymore. Sings about cars no more. Cool cars died in the oil wars. It really doesn't sound very sexy to say I drive a little four-cylinder Chevrolet.
Michael, Jonathan, and I agree on something, and that's that music is a very important part of our lives. 31 years ago, I had a vision about starting a professional orchestra in this area. Even though it's a very small town, I thought that everybody would agree that music was important, and they did. And we found this wonderful opera house that we've restored and put back into operation, and it's actually a magnificent instrument itself, and we designed the orchestra around it. So the Ohio Valley Symphony now plays in the Ariel Opera House as its permanent home.
Certainly, one of the things that shaped the history of our country is war. And in 1951, a young Canadian saw the world just inundated with a massive bloodbath. Millions and millions of folks lost their lives. Hitler had destroyed the lives of so many millions in Europe. Others had died of an influenza. And here this war had just ravaged the earth, World War II. And then by 1951, here America was heading into yet another war in the Koreas. And he just couldn't believe that. And so what he did is write, even though he was a Canadian, he wrote probably one of the world's most beloved peace songs. He didn't write an anti-war song. It was a song about peace. And so this song, written by Ed McCurdy, I think belongs with the songs of rural America.
Last night I had the strangest dream I ever dreamed before. I dreamed I saw the world agree to put an end to war. I dreamed I saw this mighty room, and the room was filled with men and women, and the paper they were signing said they'd never fight again. Oh, and when was all signed and 1,000,000 copies made. Well, they all joined hands and they bowed their heads and grateful words they prayed. And the people in the streets below, well, they were dancing round and round. And swords and guns and uniforms, they scattered on the ground. Oh, last night I had the strangest dream I ever dreamed before. I dreamed I saw the world agree to put an end to war.
He was just 21 years old, and he had recorded 60 songs in 18 months. And he had no idea that in that 18 months he would change the trajectory of not just popular music, but the music of young people all over the world. But he was just 21 years old. 2 weeks earlier, he had a big old argument with his manager, had to fire his band, and so he reached back into his hometown of Texas, and he hired a 19-year-old kid that did not know how to play the bass. And so the kid had 2 weeks to learn how to play the bass, and on a cold winter night when everybody had the flu and the sniffles and they had laundry to do and they just didn't feel like getting in that ice-cold bus with no heater and having to drive all night long, they decided to lease a little airplane, and there was just enough room for everybody on that plane except for the 19-year-old new bass player, who was very upset. He did not want to get in that bus that didn't have any heat or anything. And so they were getting ready to leave, and the singer was in the airplane getting ready to shut the door on the tarmac, and Buddy Holly looked down at his 19-year-old bass player and said, "I hope you don't freeze to death on that bus." And the 19-year-old bass player, a kid named Waylon Jennings, looked up at Buddy Holly and said, "I hope your plane don't crash." And that's the last thing that Waylon Jennings ever said to Buddy Holly, and it haunted him for the rest of his life. But because Buddy Holly had such an effect on music, especially young people in the 1950s and 60s, even today, we thought we'd include the last song that Buddy Holly recorded before getting on that plane on that cold February night.
There you go, baby, here am I. Well, you left me here so I can sit and cry. Well, golly gee, what have you done to me? And I guess it doesn't matter anymore. Do you remember, baby, last September, how you held me tight each and every night? Well, whoopsie daisy, how you drove me crazy, and I guess it doesn't matter anymore. There's no use in me to cry, and I've done everything. Now I'm sick of trying. I've thrown away my nights, and I've wasted all my days over you. You go your way, I'll go mine, now and forever till the end of time. no use in me to cry, and I've done everything. Now I'm sick of trying. I've thrown away my nights, and I've wasted all my days over you. You go your way, I'll go mine, now and forever till the end of time. I'll find somebody new, baby, we'll say we're through, and you won't matter anymore. You won't matter anymore. You won't matter anymore.
I want to give a special recognition to the fellow that helped make all these string arrangements possible. His name is Joshua Carter, and he's sitting here tonight. If you can give him a round of welcome. Joshua Carter.
Well, I would say first off that it was a wonderful opportunity working with Michael and getting a chance to help him complete his vision on these songs for rural America, and to really help bring those songs to life and to let the orchestra not only be a great band accompanying Michael, but also to show what makes an orchestra great.
One of the neat things about the history of the front porch is that it taught people how to listen to each other, and people just don't listen to each other anymore. There's so much arguing and strife and people yelling at each other, and you turn on the news. Well, they used to be a news channel, but it's one person telling you what happened and then 5 people arguing about it, and they're yelling over top of each other, and it's just crazy out there. And reminds me of the story of the little old man and the little old woman sitting on the front porch watching the sun go down the way a little old husband, a little old wife will do, and they're sitting there and the sun's going down, and all of a sudden the wife sits bolt upright and her eyebrows go shooting up in her forehead, and she grabs her walking stick and she whacks her husband over the knee. "Well, what you hit me for?" he cried out. She goes, "That's for all those years of bad sex." Well, he's all humiliated and embarrassed and angry and just pouting, and all of a sudden his eyebrows shoot up in his forehead, and he sits bolt upright, and he grabs his walking stick, and he whacks his wife over the knee. "Well, what you hit me for?" she cried out. "That's for knowing the difference." So the way we listen to each other is important. Here's a song about slowing down, calming down, and listening to each other. It's called Autumn Song. Autumn song this October morn is falling gently, my dear, like maple leaves depart the trees when they're falling gently, my dear. So sing to me softly, and please speak to me so patiently, for your words can feel like autumn leaves when they're falling gently, my dear.
So sing to me softly and please speak to me so patiently, for your words can feel like autumn leaves when they're falling gently, my dear.
Appalachia plays such an important role in what happens to others around the country, even though Appalachia is sort of a very neglected or assumed neglected part. It is a very powerful part of America's image of itself. It is the grand, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, log cabin dwelling, make it on your own independent spirit that made America what it is today. And I grew up in New York. Please don't hold that against me. I moved south a long time ago. All my children were born in Kentucky, but when I left New York, I went into a little hamlet in East Kentucky, in the mountains of East Kentucky, a little place called Mousie, Kentucky. M-O-U-S-I-E, Mousie, Kentucky. It was 2 mountains away from Minnie, Kentucky. I would go up and down the hollers with my guitar and banjo, and I'd knock on doors, and I had hundreds of front porch hootenannies for a couple of years, and people would pull out their fiddles and their mandolins, and we'd sit on that front porch with the grandest stage ever in history is somebody's front porch with music on it. And this is a song that I discovered while doing those travels up and down the mountains, written by a friend of mine named Cy Khan, but it's about how the older generation has such important tradition and passion for their history and their names and their homes and their families, and how the young people are just not interested in that. They're in the tornado of their young lives. So the songwriter hopes that although the love for the past is gone, the songwriter hopes it'll rise again in the hearts of these young people. When I recorded this song, I couldn't think of anybody better to represent the passion and dignity of the older generation than a singer named Odetta. And she recorded with me. And I couldn't think of anybody better to represent the shallow, materialistic narcissism of the younger folks than myself. So, it's a beautiful song. Gone, Gonna Rise Again. We call it New Wood.
I remember the year when my granddaddy died, and we dug his grave on a mountainside. I was too young to understand the way he felt all about the land, but I could read his history in his hand. He said, gonna rise again. There's corn in the crib and apples in the bin, hay in the loft, cotton in the gin, now gone. There's ham in the smokehouse, hogs in the trough. You know he never had a lot, but he worked like a mule for the little that he got. He said, gonna rise again. So I'm sitting on a ridge high above this farm, and I'm thinking of my people that have moved on, now gone. You're like a tree that grows from the mountain ground. You know the storms of life cut you down, but the new wood springs from the roots underground. Gonna rise again. I said the new wood springs from the roots underground. Gonna rise.
I don't think there's a real solid distinction between them. The world of classical music is filled with folk music, and the world of folk music derives a great deal from classical music as well. You can find folk music quoted directly in the great composers. Mozart quoted what we know as Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. He wrote a set of variations around that, but it was actually a famous French folk melody of the era. And many other composers, Dvorak, Copland, in his Appalachian Springs, he took a direct piece of music called Simple Gifts, a shaker song. It was written in the 1850s, and he turned it into a piece of grand classical music. And Beethoven, in his Ninth Symphony, he created imitation classical music. The song that we know as Ode to Joy, that was the main theme of that, he created it out of thin air to sound like folk music. And then he built a grand symphony around this imitation folk.
1934, he had an idea, a dangerous idea in America that shook so many people in the artist community to the core. He wanted to do an opera about black people. He wanted to do an opera about African Americans that would star African Americans. Never been done before. 1934, he wrote this thing, and they performed it, and it failed. It died, and a few months later, he passed away. It took until the 1970s until the Houston Opera Company rediscovered this amazing opera that nobody was performing about African Americans. And now it's one of the most performed operas in American music history. And yet when it was first performed, it was panned, it was turned away, it was a fantastic failure. And George Gershwin was heartbroken of it. And he died a few months later, just immersed in the failure of what he thought would be one of his most adventurous and brilliant operas. And so I'm going to sing you an aria from that famous opera that he wrote called Porgy and Bess.
Summertime, when the living is easy, all the fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich, and your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, now, don't you cry.
Summertime,
gonna rise up singing, and then you'll spread your wings and learn to fly. But come that morning, nobody will harm you, 'cause Daddy and Mama are standing by. Instrumental time. Let's all sing with Melissa. Ready? All together. Summertime. Let's just let the audience sing it, ready? Just you guys. Summertime. So hush, little baby, now, don't you cry. One of my favorite stories is the story of Woody Guthrie and how he wrote This Land Is Your Land, and you probably never heard before. Woody Guthrie was living in New York City at the height of World War II, and he was offered a job to do documentary songs in the Pacific Northwest. They were building a big dam out there, and they wanted him to write some songs for this dam, and so he traveled from New York City to the Pacific Northwest. And when he got done, tried to make his way back to New York City. He had to sell his car, he had to sell his guitar to get there, and he made it as far as Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and all of a sudden there was this big ice storm, and he's hitchhiking along the side of the road. He gets caught in this ice storm. This is true. He almost dies of hypothermia on the side of this road, and if it wasn't for the kindness of a Pennsylvania ranger who found Woody Guthrie on the side of the road almost freezing to death, brings him home, gives him hot clam soup, warms him up, and money for a bus ticket back to New York. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. But the big song of the day was by Irving Berlin, a song called God Bless America. And Woody hated that song. He hated that song with a passion because he felt it was making fun of the poor people in America at a time when he was like looking at the world that was going on. It was like the world was at war, and there's this massive global economic meltdown, and hundreds of thousands of families are being displaced. All these able-bodied men are on soup lines all over the country. In the Midwest, where he was from, climatic changes were causing this big dust bowl, and thousands of families were fleeing to California for jobs promised that weren't even there. This was the America that Woody Guthrie knew, and that's why he did not like Irving Berlin's song as it was sung by a very operatic singer named Kate Smith. So he wrote an anti-Irving Berlin, anti-God Bless America song that expressed his viewpoint about what America was really like based on, ready for this, his communist opinions. Woody was a communist at a time when communism was just another American party. It wasn't Russian or anything, but he wrote this song that was based on his point of view of what America should be like, what people should be like, put it in a book, and because he got sick, he never got to perform this song live. 7 years later, Pete Seeger finds this in one of Woody's notebooks, and he says, well, Woody, what is this? And so Woody kind of
mumbles the song to him, and Pete really liked it, and he started thinking he might sing it, but he told Woody, he says, I really don't like the title. That's so passé, and it's negative and stuff. You know, you should change the title. So Woody took a pencil and drew a line through the original title and wrote in the new title of his Irving Berlin anti-God Bless America song based on his communist viewpoints, and he called it, This Land Is Your Land. If you listen to the words, this land is your land, this land is my land, and we all share it together, based on his viewpoint. What was really amazing is Pete Seeger started singing it, and Peter, Paul, and Mary started singing it, and the Kingston Trio started singing it, and Judy Collins and all these songwriters started singing it. It became one of the most popular folk songs in America in the 1950s, and school children all over the country were singing This Land Is Your Land communist viewpoint song of Woody Guthrie at the height of Senator Joe McCarthy bringing all the communists to court in the Senate and doing that anti-American thing and everything. And here they were singing this big old communist song in the schools, and they didn't even know it. And what was really funny, the Senate entertained a motion to replace the Star-Spangled Banner with Woody Guthrie's anti-Irving Berlin God Bless America song because, well, it was so much easier to sing. So anyway, I decided to write an opera, a full symphony opera about the day Woody Guthrie wrote this famous song. And at the end of Act One of this opera called Woody the Ballad, the Woody for the People it's called. And at the end of Act One, the Pennsylvania Ranger and Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Paul Robeson are in this cafe after they kind of rescue Woody from the ice storm and stuff, and that song comes on the radio, and Woody gets incensed about this song, and Paul Robeson says, well, why don't you like this song? And Woody says, I do not believe that song. And Pete Seeger looks at Woody Guthrie and says, what do you believe? And this is Woody's response in the opera about This Land Is Your Land. I believe in redemption, and I believe in the truth. I believe there's a moment when all that is good comes shining on through. And I believe in transition. Sometimes change can be good. It's the steady confusion of life that transforms us from old into new. And I believe nothing could be so fine as love and forgiveness and mercy divine. Forgiveness is truth, and nothing else matters except for the love between me and you. And I believe nothing could be so fine as love and forgiveness Thank you. Thank you. Songs of Rural America, we are celebrating America's front porch. And not the actual front porch, but the spirit of it, the spirit of home and community and families. And that beautiful tradition of the front porch is rapidly going away. So here's a song celebrating America's front porch. It looks at the front porch three different ways. The literal front porch on your home, the emotional front porch when you find the love of your life, and then something that we really desperately need right now, and that's a front porch between nations. There's a front porch round the old home place. All my troubles disappear without a trace, and children play all summer long. The world feels right, like nothing's wrong, and fireflies dance on a starry night round the old front porch tonight. Round the old front porch tonight. There's a front porch round my true love's eyes. I could sit and watch that girl all my life. World feels right. She's a gentle and peaceful sight. And since the day that girl became my wife, I've had a front porch round my life. I've had a front porch round my life. Something very, very precious and very, very wonderful as a rural community to have an arts community and a theater, a home base for that. You have people willing to donate their time and their heart and their spirit to make art and music something possible in your hometown. Appreciating hometown artists is something unfortunately rare, because we live in the most amazing, odd generation in human history that gets most of their art and music as a flat-screen digital cell phone interpretation. Kids today are emailed an MP3, they Google the band, they YouTube the band, they iTunes the band, they download the band, they never seen the band. And yet what you have here is beautiful, three-dimensional, real, organic art and music. And you have this in your hometown. And so many communities do not have that. So many communities do not appreciate what their hometown artists and musicians try to do. And I'm going to tell you the story of one of the most saddest artist suck stories I've ever heard in my life. He loved to paint. He loved to draw. He was prolific at it. He couldn't stop himself. The problem was he wasn't very good. Most of the artists around him didn't want to hang around him in case his suckness wore off on them. No gallery owner in his lifetime, not a single gallery owner ever hung a picture, a painting, a drawing by this guy. Today, he is one of the most revered artists in all of history. He is the most copied, the most famous, the most duplicated, the most influential of all the painters ever, and yet when he was alive, nobody even ever bought a painting from him. Today, people will line up 2 and 3 city blocks. They'll pay $100, $200 to go to the premiere of what precious few paintings show up of his at a museum. And I personally find great comfort in his story. You might leave here tonight thinking, well, Michael Johnathon kind of sucks. And that's okay, because I know that someday people are going to line up 2 and 3 city blocks just to gaze upon the covers of the books and CDs you did not buy tonight. But seriously, to every artist, every one of you is an artist. Every one of you has a chance at the greatest stage in the world, your own home, your own front porch. The brightest spotlight in the world is shining on your living room couch. You are all artists. You are all dreamers. You are all songwriters and poets, and you have all this human flame inside. It doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, and it doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is that you are reflecting the glory of the human spirit in art and music. So to all of you, we thank you. We thank you for being part of our front porch, and for this, we end our concert with this amazing song about an amazing artist that nobody appreciated until he was long, long gone.
When the stars of all creation shine down on mankind's eyes, and the strands of all things living spin a tapestry of night, the hands of the healer shine down as golden light, to be hung from the skyline on a cold and lonely night. Starry, starry nights, paint your palette blue and gray. Look out on a summer's day with eyes that watch the world and can't forget, like shadows on the hill. Sketch the trees and daffodils, catch the breeze and winter chill, in colors on the snowy linen land. Now I understand what you tried to say to me, how you struggled for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now. Starry, starry nights, flaming flowers brightly blaze, swirling clouds and violet haze reflect in Vincent's eyes of china blue, and colors changing hue. Morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined in pain, are soothed beneath this artist's loving hands. Oh, now I understand what you tried to say to me, how you struggled for your sanity, and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now, for they could not love you, and still your love was true. And when no hope was left in sight, on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. Oh, but I could have told you, Vincent, this world was meant for none as beautiful as you. Starry, starry nights, portraits hung in empty halls, frameless heads on nameless walls, with eyes that watch the world and can't forget strangers that you've met. All ragged men in ragged clothes, the silver thorns of bloody rose, like crushed and broken on the virgin snow. And now I think I know what you tried to say to me, how you struggled for your sanity, how you tried to set them free. They would not listen, they're not listening still. Perhaps they never will. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tim Berens. Thank you.
Closed captioning provided by Highbridge Springwater. Songs of Rural America, the Symphony Concert, is presented in part by the Martin Guitar Company in Nazareth, Pennsylvania, making handcrafted acoustic guitars since 1833. The Deering Banjo Company, providing American-made banjos for front porch pickers and professionals, online at deeringbanjos.com. Fransky String Instruments of Prairie Village, Kansas, online at mfstrings.com. And by Song Farmers, supporting the community of front porch musicians, online at songfarmers.org.